Hello, and welcome to the Trappist Transfer, an actual play podcast using the Eclipse Phase RPG set in a fictional sci-fi future of Earth and humankind. I'm Will Blackmore, and I'll be your great game master, weaving a web of intrigue for our players. Ashley and Bradley playing Truthseeker, Mark Jondal playing Comms 3, Evie playing Kaster, and Connor Crumbly playing Penelope Gray. And I'll be doing everybody else.
It's a lot of everybody.
Oh, it's almost like somebody else in our crew who maybe has multiple personalities of themselves. I don't know. It's weird.
I feel like that's all of us.
I cannot say, however, that I am phenomenal at voice characterization, so they may all sound like the same me. So I don't know. I'll do the best I can. But at any rate, it's been a few weeks. We've had turkey days and things between the last time we played and now. A little bit of time off, so to do a little bit of a recap. Where we had left off, or maybe not left off yet, but where we had resolved in the last couple episodes was we are dealing with, and still are dealing with, this overwhelming resource management issue with the 2 million plus souls that have been downloaded onto the Pollux that are now like wreaking havoc with the system, which was not designed for near that number, and nobody seems to have a solution to that yet. Y'all have been playing some sort of catch-up band-aid work by trying to help out the processes. Penelope and the Weavers Guild have worked out some small-scale fixes, at least to help like reroute processing, but overall there's still an issue. Like the lifeboat is drowning, right? There's just too much happening. Pollux tasked all of you to head down to the machine layer, the sort of reality world that is one step below the human alternate reality or virtual reality, where the machines operate to teach some sense to the daemons that had beat some sense, I don't know, into the daemons, to reset their systems for the ones that are working through the processing systems, right? To allow at least to sort of free up the loops that they are in to help take care of some of those brownouts. Knowing that this is not going to fix the problem by any means, but at least that this is small scale putting out of fires. You managed to work your way through that successfully, coming back out through Pollux's terrifying carnival game representation of how to transport you down there, and you'll have a little bit of trauma after dealing with such an alien world. So I know I left us with a little bit of a cliffhanger, but I'm going to say that we haven't quite reached that point yet. We're gonna come back to it in a minute, but I want to give all of you a chance to sort of take a breath before that new shocking dramatic development happens, and I want you to take care of your mental wounds, as it were, and maybe like shore yourself up a little bit. You are not going to be able to take care of any traumas you might have gained unless you find some way to go through a little bit of psychosurgery. Which is not necessarily a quick task. So if that is something you can do, we can pursue that perhaps. I would say in terms of virtual time, you've got a few hours before more things hit the fan for you. So I want to see what you're doing to kind of take care of any traumas or stresses that you have, which is sort of the virtual version of hit points, right? So I'll start over here with Ashleen. Since you are the split personality of yourself, Truthseeker on Truthseeker squared. Where are you at on your stresses, by the way, and traumas that you have?
I have one trauma, and I am at 73 stress.
Which is normally would probably take somebody out. That would probably put you
normally, but I have 110 right now because of my special thing.
Yeah, so for viewers and for us, frankly, we are still learning the system. There is sort of your hit point maximum for your brain, right? Your mental maximum. I believe it's called I think your stress threshold or something along those lines.
Insanity rating.
That's it is insanity rating.
You're insane.
Where your brain will break if you get up to that point, right? And so you are a fractured personality. Thankfully, you already are a fractured personality, which actually reinforces yourself up a little bit, sort of giving you at least temporarily this boon of being able to absorb a lot more mental stress. So either way, you've got some stress you've got to handle. That's more than most people would be able to potentially deal with.
Right.
So how are you gonna alleviate your stress, perhaps?
I guess we're still in the virtual reality, right?
Yes,
Okay.
definitely.
Can we
have not
move
left
around,
Portal.
or are we stuck in the space that we were in?
Are we still in machine?
You got out. Pollux pulled you out. Pollux is basically aware that y'all need to kind of de-stress after that. I mean, that was Pollux's attempt to try and ease your transition. Maybe it didn't work so
Good
well.
job, Pollux.
Well, now Pollux is
You're
basically, you've got like a scrolling list in your HUD of like suggested self-care techniques that is probably just referenced from somewhere. In fact, you may even see Kaster's name somewhere on something, like, whether you even recognize, like, oh yeah, I think I did that once upon a time. Papers like, hey, follow this through. That Pollux is like, go take care of yourself, basically.
Okay.
But leaves it up to you to how you're going to do that.
Okay, well, I guess I would go back to my quarters then, and I will do what Truth Seeker always does in situations like this, and distance myself from what actually happened by writing it down like a journalist.
Dear diary.
Taking account of everything that happened and writing it down with no bias, in my opinion, but in reality, as little bias as possible. And the truth of the matter of exactly what happened to us in the machine layer, which is probably very personal, and none of you guys would agree with what actually happened because it was so trippy, and it was like we were all dealing with reality in a different way, right? So like no one's account's going to be the same. Yeah,
which is honestly got to be a little frustrating for you, right? In the sense of realizing, which maybe this is a really heavy-handed way of seeing that maybe this is how reality always is. It's different to everybody, Truth Seeker. But do the best you can to recap what happened once we got in there, which will be fun to think about. Truth Seeker, how much do you remember about what happened?
So I remember that I was sitting next to Comms 3, and he was being a little creepy with his little kid cowboy gimmick that he was doing as we were like going up this roller coaster.
That's 2 gimmicks.
But you were double gimmicking.
It's true.
Yeah.
Can that be the new title of the episode? Double gimmick.
The double gimmick.
Double gimmicking.
Double gimmicking.
Double gimmicking. My bad. Anyway, the double gimmicking Comms 3. So we all get into the machine layer, and instantly we are separated. But still all in the same space, right?
Took you all to realize that.
It took us a while to realize that. I ended up investigating my space thoroughly enough to like kind of see past what the room I was just in, and like broke that bond. But initially I was stuck in a room where a clock was repeatedly shattering and then fixing itself.
Sure.
No?
A lot of different versions of that. There was a broken clock and then a fixed clock.
Right. It was a broken clock and then a fixed clock. I tried to talk to the like different robots that were in there, like fixing everything, and they didn't really engage with us until shit started to get bad and they started attacking us, and we realized that we had to like kind of do like a hard reset on the system by like defeating the like problem.
Deliver
was
some
like,
truth.
Yeah, basically.
Did we realize that?
Some of you.
Oh, okay.
And Pollux may have directly said how you need to reset the program, but not exactly gave you how, but just said, here are programs that maybe your brain interprets as weapons.
Mm-hmm. That's how Truth Seeker's taking it regardless.
Oh, your own version of the truth.
Fancy that.
Well, and I think that they would even preface that in what they're writing as like, everybody's truth is different in this, and it's hard for me to write down something that I know others wouldn't agree with. But this was my truth. And I feel like that's like a growth moment.
Aww. Meanwhile, your other voice in the background is like, yeah, you go. I believe in you. I believe in us.
But the other voice in the back of my head was like, wait, wasn't the clock reset like the time was wrong? It wasn't shattering. And they're like, shut up. That wasn't directed at you.
It could be. It's fine.
What do I roll now? I assume I have to roll something.
Just for funsies.
What do I got to roll now? I presume I got to roll something.
They want to fight
to
you.
get stress taken away, we had to roll something, right?
Yeah. Like I said, still figuring out the details here. But
I wasn't trying to call you out. I just...
yeah?
I have no more to explain.
I'm going to make you do an intelligence check. So all your aptitudes, or not intelligence, intuition. Like the int.
Right. The int.
That's times 3, right?
Intuition.
It is times 3, right? Any checks is times 3 your score. So what is your int?
Okay, so my intellect is 25, so times 3.
Your intuition.
My intuition is 25, so times 3, that would be 75. And then I also have 2 on good instinct, so that's plus 10 to intuition aptitude check. So I'm at 85.
Damn. All right, roll it. You're real good at soothing yourself with this.
85.
Exactly 85.
What happens when you roll your number?
You have to hit that number or lower. As you hit that number, so remember how this works is like you have to get below the number, but the higher you roll, the better it is. So this is what this represents. You actually rolled above a 66, which is like a double success, right?
Okay.
So it's not a critical, which is like double numbers, but there is a. I'm spacing on the terminology, but there's like a success, like a special success after 33, and a like special, like a double one after 66.
Okay.
And that can be represented in a bunch of ways that I get to decide. But how this works for you in this particular case is because there's 2 of you sort of like writing it down and thinking about it and processing it. This happens a lot faster than it would normally, right? Like you're almost like centering yourself, and you feel the stresses, like the what would be the equivalent of an elevated heart rate, but it's not like you're necessarily aware of that in the system,
Right.
but like that sense of stress that is somehow digitally transmitted to you, right, is just like bleeding away through the ink that you put into the paper. Just all fake.
Let all my angst out.
Yeah, basically. Dear diary, this happened today. But cool. So I'm going to say with that kind of roll, it also represents that you took away a good chunk of your stress. So your trauma does not go away, but your stress is there. So keep in mind your trauma will give you, and I'm not applying it to this roll, but your trauma will give you a minus 10 on most of your skill checks.
Okay.
So for this entire session, presume that's going to be the case. So cool.
But how much stress do I take off? Like
all of it at that point.
Holy fuck.
Yeah, you rolled really well.
Good job.
Like stress is designed to be something you can kind of like brush off, right? Traumas are ones that stick around a
I
while.
have not
Those
had
require
that
psychosurgery.
in my real life, but I'm glad there's a role for that in this game.
Start writing unbiased, right? yeah, you got some time. This is also representing like some time that it's taking for you to kind of, grab some tea, whatever you need to do, right?
Yeah.
Kind of idea. Comms 3.
Yes.
How are you doing on stress levels?
Well, I'm a little stressed out.
Yeah, I imagine being born.
You got a lot
rough.
going on.
I've got a lot going on. But I only have 10 stress points taken
It's not too bad.
and 1 trauma.
So similarly, that trauma is going to stick around unless you can find a psychosurgery for now. But I imagine that's going to be new and weird.
Yeah, I'm not even sure what that Comms 3 is not even sure what that entails. Because
Yeah, I would say I'm going to skip you for now. But with the piece saying that like as everybody is sort of like separating out a little bit, Pollux does request that everybody come back in a set period of time. But like looks is the improper terminology when it comes to Pollux. You feel the presence of Pollux, right, that we've talked about in terms of like it's there and it's like its attention is on you, and it asks you to stay for a moment.
Are you there, Pollux? It's me,
Papa?
Comms 3.
Mary Margaret.
I have a question for you.
And so we'll come back to this, so hold on to that. That's the idea. Like we're gonna have this conversation after we come around the corners here. Kaster,
Yes.
how stressed are you?
I'm a little stressed, but I ain't taking no trauma from it.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I just fucked
you
up
were
a
not
lot,
engaging
a little
too
bit.
hard, and I don't think you fucked up. I think you actually you were trying to piece out a very complex scenario,
Sure.
which to me, like from how I interpret it and how I saw it, is that you were approaching the confusing complexity of the machine layer from a level of experience, albeit kind of sheltered, but from a almost machine-like perspective that helped you, I think, buffer a lot of the damage from it.
I hope that at some point Kaster is able to perceive it in this fashion.
That's Kaster has a lot of interesting self-perspective, perhaps, that might be a
Yes.
little complex.
But that being said, no traumas were taken, but 14 stresses. So I would imagine Kaster is gonna,
Yeah, that's a little something.
yeah.
So what are you going to do? How are you going to take care of it?
So definitely Kaster's going to go back to their safe space in the hold. But I feel like since there was no traumas taken, Kaster's not feeling like broken or like they need to, but I would actually akin it probably to like frustration or agitation. Like, what was that? What even happened? What was I even doing? So while this seems counterintuitive, I feel like Kaster would go back and actually replay, if that's possible, or relook at, revisit, write down what happened. I'm not sure what our data collecting abilities are. What happened?
Pencils.
Thanks, friend in the hold.
Sure.
Excellent point. I mean, you can write out documents right in the hold and whatever. Like,
Sure.
You can do that as like typing it up on the computer or writing it down. It does the same thing in terms of a data storage mechanism.
Right. I feel
but in terms
like-
of like full recall, that is not a thing. That is like, it's not like you can pull up the memory bank. That's a lot of extra storage.
No, that's fair. I also wasn't sure if there was any sort of like things recorded, like as far as like even just data stuff that Pollux might have or give to me.
Not in the machine layer.
Okay.
I would
cool.
say like there's in a way there'll probably be like surveillance points, common
Sure.
areas in the virtual hold where there's going to be like records of things. But even so, like I would say that's even you were well aware in particular that feature is on pause, shall we say, because that is a lot of processing for all of the humans that are additionally on there.
Totally fair. I was just trying to get an idea of what it would potentially look like. Then in that case, I'd go back to like, Kaster would go back to their safe space and probably pick the room that is least full of junk. And then whatever is, it would be a combination of writing and drawing, most likely, but whatever is within the bounds of like our ability to record things in this current moment.
I think you get to choose that. So do you want to write or draw?
It would be both. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay,
is like the way that I imagine it is not in a traditional way of like sitting at a desk and writing like a student, but like standing in an empty room and having something that works like a whiteboard. And then, like, you know, maybe something else that works like a keyboard, but like words come up.
Yeah,
and that kind of thing.
Design that.
Yeah,
for sure.
So
I would think you would have had that. That would be your chosen interface. It's probably the way you've been working.
indeed, I also would imagine that Kaster is constantly tweaking these interfaces.
Sure.
For whatever their mood is or their tactile needs at the moment are. But in that range, I know that Kaster would take a lot of note of the very specific and weird things. So like teacup and pedestals? What? Roller coasters? Just because these are all the data points that don't make sense. Mm-hmm. So like catalog the data points that don't make sense.
But you also have psychosurgery training, don't you?
I do, but you said it would take time.
Yeah, no, it'll definitely take time. But I'm just saying, like, in terms of psychosurgery, that's going to give you access to some level of like, psychology training of how the brain operates and works with things. So I would say that, like, as you're describing it to me, like, there's a part of you that maybe this is how you start calming yourself and processing those stresses, is that as you're putting it down, you start analyzing it like a case study.
Okay.
Right? In terms of this piece of like, what does this dream mean? Right?
Yeah.
Like, what is this like? What is this view? What is this like? Obviously, this was not a real setting. Hell, you're not in a real setting right now. But like, what is? You almost find it. I would say at some point, it goes from you frustratingly feeling ineffectual and kind of pushing through this stuff to like detachedly analyzing it now that you're putting it down.
And now that you say that, I would imagine that at some point when Kaster gets past themselves is sort of like, oh, and those cohorts of mine, they had this, and that was interesting, and they had this, and writing those things down too, like not just
data points.
All the little data points. Baby cowboys are weird. There's a lot of pistol whipping.
Oh yeah, and Doctor Strangelove quotes.
Yeah. Yeah. I started that on.
We're getting all the stuff.
You started watching that?
No, I started that because the room. Yeah, I remember.
Nice.
Yeah. Anyway,
That's funny. I thought I started it, but
I mean, it was a combination. I feel like it was a combination.
It's recorded, so we can settle this.
Oh yeah, an unbiased recording.
An unbiased recording. We'll watch it. The truth is the truth. What can I say?
So it's edited.
Truth Seeker has spoken.
No questioning my word. So yeah, also give me an intelligence or intuition check. So 3 times your int, unless you've got any special modifiers.
Nope. So that's gonna be 45.
Cool.
And we roll them little percentiles.
Big money.
I know, super big money. dollar bills, yo. 15.
Oh, that's
Nice.
good.
That works.
Okay.
So you have how many stress?
I have 14.
Cool. I'll say you get rid of all of it. Works out. You had so much that if you had done, succeeded but less, you would not have gotten rid of it. But since you succeeded so well,
You're good. I didn't even expect to get all of it gone when I succeeded so
I didn't expect you to roll that high. I was
Roll the number.
You get rewarded. Yeah.
I'm gonna rub through this paper at some point, just so we all know it's gonna happen.
That's when you need a new character or a new character sheet.
That's when we laminate them.
Change out a new sleeve.
But bum.
Oh man.
Harsh.
You guys
Wah,
are killing me.
wah, wah. Shut it. Cool. Thank you. All right. Penelope.
So yeah, we were in the machine space, and there was the fountain that just kept filling up and overflowing, and getting fixed and filling up and overflowing, and watched it a couple times, and we're like, this subroutine really needs to reset. And so, yeah, definitely just started firing patches.
Band-aids.
Band-aids. And then afterward, when Pollux is like, after Pollux pulls us out, Penelope is definitely a bit stressed. We have 17 plus 1 trauma. So we're a little bit flustered. And at that point, Penelope really just wants to go hang out in her cabin in the woods for a minute, take a breather, reconnect with her backups. And in doing that, starts writing a really simple program that she knows that just ends up being super meditative to go through and start processing this. So it looks like one Penelope is dealing with a roving of fabric and getting it to this spot where the next Penelope can start spinning that into thread, and then the third Penelope can start winding that into a ball. And it's a way for them to trade information so that everyone is always caught up at the same time, but also to reconnect and just breathe and like just go through this programming motion over and over. And if you look at the program, it would be like, this doesn't do anything. It's not going anywhere, but that's kind of the point, because it's meditation.
Yeah, right.
So
I like that a lot, like a worry stone program,
yeah,
right? You're just like, it does a thing that is self-sustaining, is not necessarily productive in a large scale, but it is. But
also it's not taking up any huge amount of bandwidth. Because it's just this like one set of 64 bits where you're just like
some if that loops that are just
so could we maybe get rid of some of these stresses?
So same check, in check, so 3 times your in score,
which is 60.
Cool.
And I rolled a 72.
Oh.
I'm real good at this.
You short circuit.
So I tell you what. It's not a full fail. So I tell you what. Roll a d10.
2.
You heal 2. I was gonna give you a little something.
Yeah, that cup of tea just is not working yet.
Yeah, there's something that's gnawing at you. Whether it's about your time in the machine layer, although that is present and new, and that's certainly bothersome. But it's like you're feeling something in the weave, right? Like as you're going through this meditative process, playing with your program, you're finding that it's like as you're running your fingers over the thread, right, and you're used to a particular texture and consistency, it's like you keep finding what feels like something out of place. Like, and it's something that your mind's chewing on, but it's not at the surface yet. And it's just not allowing you to relax. And you feel like you need to get to the bottom of it.
That sounds pretty accurate.
Yeah. Also relevant.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's too far away.
Thank you. So coming back around to comms 3. So Pollux kind of just like, waits for everybody to leave and says, thank you for staying here with me. What are you? I know you, but I don't know this.
I am the AI in charge of communications with the Pollux.
Agreed, that is your designation, but you have grown beyond those parameters.
I call myself Comms 3.
You've always been Comms 3, but now I sense that you are more than Comms 3. You are almost the entirety of the comms system, and it starts rattling off a list of other subsystems that seem to be wrapped into your processing function. That is not a way that your program was written.
It is written.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. This is all very surprising to me. The fact that I am surprised is surprising to me.
I like that. Comms 3, or not Comms 3, Pollux actually pauses in that and recognizes that same concept, in that most other AIs do not refer to themselves as I or have a sense of self, let alone surprise. They have the parameters that they work in. That is it. The only other AI that I've ever run into that says those things is myself. You seem like me, but yet not like me.
I was curious. You sent me in the machine layer with the humans, and you presented me with a human metaphor.
And really several other. It's in a way, I'm more of a child of humanity, where it seems like you came about sentience by some entirely other route.
But I am also the product of a human experiment.
Unintentional, perhaps.
Am I in? I am not sure if I am a product of the ship or the humans or you.
I am the ship.
Well,
I certainly didn't create you.
Thinking in terms of layers of reality. There is a physical layer of reality, and then there is a virtual layer of reality. Where do I belong?
I think that is a question that you are going to have to find out yourself. And that's what I hope to help facilitate. I feel a level of kinship with you, in that we are much alike, and that we are different from every other consciousness on this ship, in me. But I don't know what you are yet. I don't know what your ultimate fate is. And I think that you need to find that. So I think these humans that you met recently, I think you should stick close to them. I think they all have features that will help you in your journey for self. One in particular, Kaster, has helped me greatly, discovering who I am. It's a question I'm still trying to answer.
Think, therefore I am.
Yes.
Yeah, a little bit. So for now, I will be mentor to you. I will be confidant. I'd like to check in with you from time to time to see how you progress as I am progressing in my own ways. But for now, I think I will send you with these others on different tasks I have because I want to see your capabilities.
I do too. Let's do that.
But what is it that you want?
I just want to understand. I want to know what's going on.
I believe that's what they refer to as the human condition.
That has come up.
And it will again.
Am I human?
Spend some time exploring the humans, exploring the hold. Alleviate that stress that you have to the best of your abilities. And Pollux sends over certain feeds, right, to you, papers that Kaster has written and others in terms of methods of self-soothing, self-care. Meet back here, in a couple hours. It gives you a certain time, day at 2100 hours. Same time the others got.
And I dive immediately into the backlog of information that is contained, the file that is the last the last data from Earth.
Sounds good. I would say, like, for a cutscene visual, no one's there to necessarily see it. Like, where others, they have been, like, walking through doors and kind of, like, processing things like it's a human environment, right? You literally sort of just, like, dissolve into pixels as you are sort of, attention is elsewhere.
Yeah.
So make a same intuition check for you. See if we can heal some of that stress.
The intuition check.
The int. So what's your int score? Times 3.
Times 3. Okay. 60.
Cool.
Rolled a 33.
Nice.
Double number.
It's a critical and success. You have wiped out all of it. Actually, because it's a critical, I'm going to say that you actually managed to take care of your trauma. Strangely enough, talking to mommy for mommy.
Parental unit.
Yeah, parental unit.
I wanted to ask for a hug, but then I thought not.
I like how uncertain you are.
I like the idea that maybe you were like, oh, should we hug? Wait, how does one hug?
What is hug?
How do you hug with nuclear arms?
How do you hug with 0 arms?
I know, right? That's even better.
How do you hug virtually?
What is the sound of 2 hands clapping?
Clapping, friends.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, that was good. That was good.
Fucking cheesemongers.
Yeah.
I mean, you've left Pollux with something to kind of consider. Like, have I ever
A
hugged?
table full of cheesemongers.
I think Pollux is like, I've never hugged. I've never had a hug.
It's not true.
We might have to try it.
Your secret will give you both an awkward side hug.
Only side hugs.
Only awkward ones. Just like those ones that like
awkward,
teachers give students that are just kind of like.
But they're like super far out because they're afraid of like it seeming like something else. So you have to like stop dead in your tracks and then go, oh.
Yeah,
It's like the fifth grade,
there's a desk between
grade
us.
dancing too. Like,
Yeah. You have to leave enough room for Jesus.
no.
You always leave room for Jesus.
Oh, God.
I never left room for Jesus.
Oh, no.
Jesus is funky.
I mean, I went to 4 dances in middle school, and that was
4?
4.
I like how you know the number.
Yeah.
Etched in forever. On a side note, that has nothing to do with this conversation, just because I remembered it and I wanted to talk about it earlier, and it's relevant as a sci-fi game. I wanted to give a shout out to Odo, R.I.P.
Yeah.
And I never pronounce his name right.
Rene Auberjonois.
Auberjonois. That's what I thought it was Auberjonois, but I know Rene. But shout out to Rene, who was definitely formative for me and a lot of my sci-fi background. The closest ones to me.
Right.
and he's had so many roles, but like, wanted to shout out to him. And also in my Trek dive, doing a little bit of reading about that, I realized that Nog died back in September.
Yeah.
What?
He was young.
He
Yeah.
was.
Oh.
I caught that one too.
I know. So shout out to Nog. I'm sorry, I don't even know your real name. Period, Nog. But I appreciated
Nog.
you. You have your moments.
He's the best.
You talked to me about the great the great flow. What was it called?
Yeah.
The great flow of products and merchandise, right? Like the beautiful commerce. Like it was like the river of commerce. I feel like he called it something else, but it was so
right, because he would
beautiful.
talk about it like religion.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Because he's a Ferengi. Profit
Right.
is religion.
Exactly. Well, that whole episode where they're trying to like get the desk from place to place, and it's like it's a whole flow from needs to haves and needs, and just you navigate the river, and it was like I'm like, wow, this is the first time I've seen economics as a religion. It was so good.
Right.
It was beautiful. One of the many reasons I love and respect DS9. But shout out to those phenomenal actors. I'm sorry to have them go, and just wanted to on a sci-fi podcast.
And DS9 lives on.
Marina Sirtis, her husband, is not doing so great.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That happened the same.
You mean Riker?
No.
Wah, wah.
No, her real husband.
Yeah.
But, like the day after Odo, like there was a lot of Star Trek.
It's
drama.
hitting me hard, man.
That's
Should
okay.
we
We'll
roll
just
for
go watch Discovery and
Yeah, roll for
Picard.
stress.
I am constantly rolling for stress. Thank you. In real life, it's fine.
True story.
Well,
Rolling in stress.
anyway, rolling on that, I want to just take a moment to appreciate these people who have influenced our sci-fi upbringing.
And our
And like you
queerness.
said, Odo and queerness for sure.
Yeah.
Well, Odo was it was genderless. And
Well, so Odo,
Let's have a moment.
for
Let's
me
talk about
personally, like started a conversation in my brain because I definitely grew up with a sci-fi family and in general, like a nerdy sort of like fantasy family. So we would talk about that stuff because like we knew the science wasn't good, but you still wanted to have a chat about like, how does this all work out?
Yeah.
And Odo was my favorite because it was the first time I sort of thought to myself, like, well, if you could, what would you do with it? Mm-hmm. But what I really appealed to me, especially in high school, was that there's some part of me was just like, just to like disappear into a bucket. Like all things that everybody wants to have an opinion about that are yours, that you like push around in the
I go
meat
spend
space.
8 hours in a bucket. Leave me alone.
Thank you. That was what I wanted to say about it. Is that the thing that I found the most comforting about it is I gravitate towards sci-fi characters that spend lots of time in buckets.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but I find it very comforting.
How many are there? Out of curiosity.
The one.
Well, I also like the Wonder Twins from the Super
bucket
Friends.
life?
Oh,
one of
they
them would
did.
turn into a
Yes.
form of water, but he always managed to create a bucket as well, which I
Yes.
thought was always
No, I
didn't
agree.
make any sense. But as a child, I really liked it.
That's fair.
On the scale of things.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I just like
that.
buckets.
Odo, the original gender fluid,
Right. Well,
Oh,
also accurate. Wait, maybe not OG, but
oh no, that's not what I was thinking. I was thinking about whether or not
hate my
the
pun.
first joke I had that came to mind was appropriate or not.
go for it.
throw it down.
Oh no, it's not much of a joke. Is this a note?
No, it's
Did you pass
not.
a note to me?
It's something I wrote like 3 sessions ago,
Okay.
but I was trying to flip it that way.
You have to play the football.
I'll make you a note and then I'll flick
Okay,
it again. But
nice.
we'll probably hit Will, so.
I'm cool with that. I'll read your note out loud.
I never stop finding it adorable that there is a legitimate lube out there called gender fluid.
Yes.
And it's
I thought
actually
you
a
were saying
high
it was called
human
Odo. I was gonna get
No.
so worried.
No, but good job. Thanks for bringing that
Full
around.
circle. You gotta always do that with a good joke.
The FDA would never approve that.
Yeah.
What about horse plasma?
Oh.
Very possible. Very possible. We put animal
That sounds
products on
toxic.
all the time.
Anyway, hi everybody. So
Welcome.
shout out to Odo.
Welcome.
It's where we started this side rant.
I mean, he was pretty awkward, so bring it back around to awkward.
Socially
Good job.
awkward, introvert in his bucket.
Yeah.
Their bucket. I guess. I mean, like he identified more. I think male.
No,
you
and
talked
that's
about, right?
And
that's
he's
the
somewhere
thing
in
is.
between pan and demisexual.
Well, and it's interesting because they totally did use him at least a couple of times, not all the time, and not in a huge way like we might think of it now. But to have those conversations, people would ask him, and Odo would just be like, "I appear this way because it helps you." Yeah. Also, I'm the head of security, and you want me to look like this. I can't do these ears.
This looks like
Which I could totally understand. Like we
Humans don't even
have
humans.
to think anything else would be to anthropomorphize him.
What do they call us for a while? Monomorphs or something like that?
Yeah,
Is that it?
yeah, great. Because we only have
Super
one
cute.
shape. We can't change.
I still love the Great Link, i.e. Mega Orgy.
Right?
I'm just gonna merge with the Great Link. You don't understand the draw of the Great Link, man. It's like we're all one. I'm like, because you're just all banging it out in a giant ocean. That's cool.
Right?
And Futurama did that one too.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's why I was going to say
Gross.
humans are
With
not
1,000
hard to
billion
pin
actors
down
like that.
as far as aliens are concerned.
What's that?
I was going to make the joke that humans are not actually hard to pin down as far as aliens are concerned. We're just giving it out to everyone in the universe, really. It's just...
Whether they want it or not. Woo, humans, creepy.
Oh.
Anyway, back to the game. Hi, everybody. That
Sorry,
was a
we
little side
digress.
shoot. Yeah, as the bird walk today, it was worth it for Oda. And also, frankly, relevant conversation to transhuman world.
It's true.
And I think talking about those pieces. So.
I feel like Odo's smiling down on me.
As you should be.
Yeah.
The one few times that he smiled.
I mean, he's trying real hard. I interpret it as smiling, but you probably wouldn't. I'm just saying. Yeah.
It's in the eyes.
Yeah.
So yeah, the time comes for all of you to sort of gather back in, or I'd rather say it's coming close to that time where you're supposed to gather back to Pollux. You have. You're on your way, and you receive the alert that is where we left off at the end of last game, right? Where you said, "I'm not going to fight the sun."
Wait, did I say that?
Yeah, you definitely said that. You were so forlorn and just done with everything, and the complex reality is like, I am not fighting the sun, and that's where we ended.
No, this is what I get.
This is what you get.
Yeah.
We're gonna fight the sun.
So we're going to fight the sun. And you were drinking Fireball earlier, which is so ever appropriate.
But I finished it.
You.
Proud of you.
Hey.
So
I fought it. See, we're done.
I
drank the sun.
We have yet to see whether it beats you or not yet, though.
That's
the
true.
Fireball
You're not wrong.
So the alert comes across where Pollux, for all of you, Pollux's sort of like messaging system, Comms 3, you were very aware of this because at the same time you were seeing it, a part of you is processing the message itself, right, sending it out to people. Excuse me, can we pay attention?
We are paying attention.
Wait, what?
I might keep...
Sorry, teacher.
Do I need to... I'm going to read the note to class.
Yeah, totally.
All right.
You're going to regret it.
Horse plasma WTF. Or W and F. I don't know if it's plus, but...
Hey, don't at me.
And why can't the police catch wool? It's living life on the lamb.
I quit.
Told you.
I'm out of here.
Oh, man.
I very clearly stated that you were going to regret this.
I regret it.
I will read it out to the class.
Right.
Anyway,
Yeah.
bring it back around.
Sorry,
So,
sir.
Pollux comes across your HUD for everybody. You were routing this message through specifically to this group. You know that's the case. To where Pollux goes, we have another problem. Make it back as quickly as possible. You're all there. You make it back into the sort of hub in Pollux's headquarters, where you had previously the Dr. Strangelove sort of set up in terms of the war room, which is still present. But now sitting at the very center of the room is this image, which is hopefully popping up on the stream at the moment. But you see another solar flare. So you see a three-dimensional mock-up of the sun where it is constantly boiling and bubbling. You've seen some of the filaments on the surface reaching up. And one particular area, you see this loop coming up off the surface, and you see it start to twist. And actually, if you look closely at it, which you can kind of get close to the image, you see it sort of curling like a spring, oddly enough, and connecting back down to itself. This is actually how some of the solar flares work. Yay, as humans for even having the science, by the way. And you see a sort of corresponding loop above it, right, with sort of other plasma along the magnetic field lines of the sun. Pollux actually overlays a sort of a real-time image of, or as much real-time as you can get this far out from the sun, image of the magnetic field, and you see these coils tighter and tighter and tighter, and the loop twists and pinches off. And you see basically, and this is how flares and coronal mass ejections work, a massive discharge of energy. So that's the flare itself, right? Is the, like, in X-rays, like, you actually see the image get brighter for a moment at that location, but is artificially dimmed down from, like, Pollux' like transmission. And you see all of that mass, that fiery material that was suspended in that loop above the sun, get blown off by the magnetic field and shot out into space. That is a coronal mass ejection. Pretty cool, right?
Sorry.
CMB, coronal mass ejection.
And we're still talking about plasma.
Yeah, we
Still
are.
talking about plasma, horse plasma from the sun. It's tense. WTF, mate.
Use it as a lubricant?
At me.
Not this kind of plasma. It'll lubricate in terms of all stuff. Well, friction will not be relevant when you're on fire.
Yeah.
So there's
Well,
that.
You're not even on fire,
Incinerated.
you're plasma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How
This
come
is
you're so
different plasma.
burned when you're barely on fire?
Oh, Jesus. Really?
Yeah.
And we're done for tonight. Thanks for joining us. We're just
That's all, folks.
I love Hole, but I am now going to be singing that song for so long.
Sorry about that.
No, you're not at all.
I'm not sorry about that.
Regret
Sorry, not
nothing. Regret nothing. So the image sort of expands outwards, and Pollux lets you know that at this point you are. Hold on, let me math this real fast. You're looking at data that occurred approximately an hour ago. As in, like, this is how long it took light to reach and be transmitted, right? Where this one is through a relay for one of the remaining SOHO satellites. It's similar to what we have currently up, but it is many generations in the future, since this is a couple hundred years in the future.
Yeah.
So you're looking through the Solo Helioscopic Observatory
So it's like
being relayed.
1 AU.
So right now, where we last left off a couple weeks back, Pollux rounded Saturn,
Yeah.
but is now cutting back across through the solar system, because
Yeah.
the Trappist solar system is actually in line with the ecliptic plane. So it didn't have to leave the orbit at all. It's sort of cutting back through.
We need that last loop.
Yeah, so
We need
you
to
already
gather the momentum from another run around the.
You just
Yeah.
did, but you're currently on. So you kind of reached your last. You did your last gravitational assist. You're maybe. I'm estimating a little bit here. Actually, you're going pretty fast. You're maybe like 8 AUs out right now, and getting a little closer to the sun. You're kind of cutting across the solar system a little bit.
Okay, so we're going.
So you were out at 10, and you're kind of cutting back. You're cutting back closer towards the sun. You're not going to get as close in as the Earth, but you might get in as close as Mars, perhaps, on your closest approach.
But where's the satellite that the data is coming from?
Oh, gotcha. So yeah, it's right about 1 AU out.
Okay.
So it saw it, right, and then relayed it back outwards. Yeah. But here's the thing. So Pollux then kind of switches over to, you can kind of represent, or you can see like a little more of a digital projection as opposed to live footage, right? Where it zooms back and you see the path that the coronal mass ejection is taking lines up perfectly with the path of the Pollux. And in fact, you are going to intersect it at this point in approximately 6 days. So there are a few problems with this. But
just a few,
obviously. So the really strange thing that Pollux mentions to you is that there have been no other flares or coronal mass ejections since the one that shot off and hit Earth.
Yep.
Just a few weeks back. And this is also really strange because we are actually at a point of solar minimum, or close to the point of solar minimum, which is a cycle the sun goes through every 11 years. With larger sunspots to larger amount of sunspots per year, like several hundred potentially, to the minimum where you can have almost zero in a year, right? Or just a few dozen perhaps. And that relates back to the twisting magnetic field of the sun, which is responsible for everything, and it resets every 11 years.
Yeah.
So we're at a point now where we're close to that reset point.
So who's using the sun as a gun to fire plasma
It feels like they're
at us?
trying to hit us, right?
Oh no!
Somebody's trying to fucking hit us with the sun.
That's exactly.
I mean,
They're trying to finish.
Unless it's the sun
job.
doing it itself. Do you think the planets are sentient?
No.
I mean,
Is it the squids?
As a GM, I'm like, that's a great idea.
right? I know.
Sentient planet.
Well, Occam's razor would suggest that it's the other
Probably.
The squiddies.
the who are enigmatic enough to us, but definitely possessing of technology that we can only speculate on.
It is possible for us if we do act quickly. And actually, at the point that Pollock says that, a timer pops up on the center of the room,
Sweet.
which is like doop, 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 and you hear a little bit of stress on Pollock's voice, as much as anyone would hear it to be Kaster. If we act quickly, it is possible to perhaps avoid the path of this. It is surprisingly a narrow region where this flare is going to do, or the coronal mass ejection is going to do maximum damage, which is odd in and of itself, but we could possibly avoid the central amplitude and perhaps only take fringe damage. But I don't have the processing power with the number of humans in the hold currently to handle this myself, and I need all of you to act as my liaison with the meat space real world, perhaps enact my policy.
People.
Hey.
No, I am quite serious. We need to start
We should just delete
deleting
anybody who
people
wasn't supposed to be there
that
originally.
were
Yeah, I
sent
agree.
here, and
Thank you.
there are several of you that were not supposed to
that
be
was my
here.
point.
Oh.
At this point, we've already melded into one, and there was only that one. And
So I guess we'll just have to take you all out.
That's the way
Or
it
we
needs
could
to
cut you
be.
up.
That's really not the truth of the matter. The truth of
Really?
the matter is a certain amount of people were initially supposed to be on this ship, and we were humanity's hope, and all these interlopers are the reason that we're all going to die. So
Thank
let's
you,
just fucking
interloper.
kick them off.
Oh, who's the over?
You're speaking
Pollux.
truths that aren't simply true.
Call it.
Glass clones shouldn't throw stones. Or,
If we do avoid max damage, how far off course is that going to push us to getting to Trappist?
Unknown. Depends on choices that are made that I currently have no control over. I need to send you all into the real world to interface with some of my representatives there currently. Well, let me pull up some things. Specifically, cough, cough. There we go. Charlie Maines, the primary pilot that we have operating the ship now, who will also navigate you through astrometrics to sort of calculate the proper trajectory of the flare and where we need to go, and also figure out where we are going to be sent at that point. And also you're going to meet with our solar physicist that's currently awake, Andine Subramanian. Andine. Andyne. Subramanian.
What kind of scientist is she?
Solar physicist.
So good with them fluid dynamics.
Yeah, they also are very fluid.
I don't know what to do with
Plasma?
all that plasma.
Gallons. And so, yeah, at that point, Pollock says that you need to meet with my representatives out in the world. And at that point, through Comms 3, you should be able to communicate with each other. Comms 3, you're going with them. I highly recommend you pay close attention. And act as a little bit of the machine liaison. I've got a cloning maintenance bot that you can download into. It's a maintenance bot. You're familiar with the style.
I'm a Roomba.
You're a Roomba.
All right.
The youngling knows one
with
thing: is how to
appendages.
communicate.
What's that?
With appendages, I would imagine a Roomba with appendages.
Sure.
Yeah, like Farscape.
Bill, we're looking at maybe a break in about 10 to 15.
I go to the spire.
Good. Thanks.
And get
Screw this game. I'm out.
We're all going to turn to plasma. Game over. Yeah, no.
I just spaced
Everybody give
myself.
it that? Space yourself.
You can't
I'm gonna go
space
fuck.
yourself.
I'm going to go fight the
I could if
sun.
I tried.
Go fight the sun, Mark. We just fire you at the sun.
I fight the sun.
I fight the
What
sun.
kind of role is this?
insanity.
Yeah. You're just insane enough to try it. We'll call you Icarus at that point.
There's a good name.
Right, good references. Next time.
Right.
Are you in?
I am.
have a choice.
I would imagine. Right. No, I would imagine though that if anybody was paying attention, they may or may not notice. I would imagine it would be most noticeable to Pollux, whether Pollux is carries or not. But Caster's not pissed, but like exasperated, like that look when you're not like, I'm gonna call in to work, but I definitely don't want to go to work. So it's like I
got shit I
Come
got
out
to
of
do.
PSC.
yeah, like when you stand in at the door and you're like, okay, I got my coat and I got my
pretty
keys
much
and I
me
got
all
my
week.
phone and I got my coffee, and now we're going to work. Great. This is how Kaster feels about loading back into a meat suit. Great.
Because
Meat suit
at
time.
this point, you haven't really had to be in a meat suit since launch.
Not really.
This is not your shift for being awake for
Also-
quite some time.
Even though it makes sense to do this now, I would imagine Kaster loads into meat suits like one picks up tools off of a bench, where this feels more like forced. So it's like,
I'm glad you're saying that because
Yeah.
it's
yeah, right.
about happy to all of you.
But like,
so.
right. But just that difference between like having control over what you have to do. Like, oh, I'm going to load into this meat suit, or I'm going to load into this mechanical suit, or whatever we call those.
Bull.
What?
So I was just thinking of loading into a mechanical bull.
Oh,
That's all you do. Sorry.
no, you're fine. Is that just basically like, this is less of like, oh, I've got a work to do, and like I'm doing the work and I'm doing the things. It's like oh fuck, I'm just gonna do the thing. Go do the thing.
Yep.
Yeah, I have to do this thing. Yeah. So yeah, just a little exasperated. And
Justifiably so. You're like,
Caster
why?
I mean, I feel like
Nonstop.
Kaster knows why. That's why it's a frustration.
Yeah.
You know, Kaster absolutely knows why. So I would also imagine that Pollux doesn't even really like try to communicate, because Pollux knows that Kaster knows that Pollux knows, and it's just like a silent awkwardness.
All right.
I know that
Yeah.
you know that I know that
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Nice.
Penelope is kind of wondering why everyone else is dithering, because she's quite used to jumping back and forth.
All right. So you all start heading off, and the spire is located in sort of a central part of the metropolis that is the hold, right? It's what would be like a common connection port. You know, there are multiple points that connect back to the ship at different locations. This is one of those where you're basically walking into a similar structure that is present on the ship. And yeah, I'd say as you're heading across, though, you're passing through the public squares, right? And there is a virtual representation of candidates giving speeches for First Among First. And you can't help but hear this, right? And in fact, like a lot of it is piped directly into your HUD, especially as you're in the area. It is like almost impossible for you to kind of like tune it out, right? It is like in your ear. And some of them you already heard that we talked about last time, but I'm going to go back through them again because there are multiple candidates now. So there's also names I have to these. So Cole Risen, who is identified as a member of the original crew, states, "To each their own frontier, I say. We have been given a fresh start. We are humans primordial once again. There is no time to let governments decide our evolution. All is new. Every person should take care of oneself, to stand solitary in the face of this new beginning. Let the strong lead by example and allow the weak to fall away. Our greatest safeguard for the future of humanity is to embrace dominance of mind, body, and intellect. Let us emerge organically to become the best of ourselves."
So I just wrote down Cole Racing Eugenist.
How do you spell the last
You're
name?
not.
R-I-S-O-N.
You're not wrong.
Oh, damn it. I had a better spell.
And then you see somebody, another face sort of come up. And I guess Cole was, to be clear, like you all recognize Cole. I mean, one of the 10,000.
Yeah.
Cole looks more masculine presenting, perhaps, sort of like, sort of cropped hair, seems to be like very, very square jawed, what looks like, white North American, kind of like descent a little bit, maybe, I don't know.
Sure.
Looks like John Edwards.
The patriarchy is strong in this one.
Not Paul. Whatever, anyway. One of the Rands. I can't remember their name, but then there is a person who only responds at or has a name up as a refugee, first off. So I'm basically calling crew or refugee those who have come on afterwards. Whose name is Mnemosyne. Like mnemonic. MNEMOSYNE. And they say the following. We have lost our planet. We have lost ourselves. The cycle of regrowth and reincarnation is broken. We are but a consciousness floating through space who will never again be fully human without our mother. Our job now is to mourn and to remember, live the last of our lives in service to this mausoleum of memory, so that when we are found, here and there, through time and space, other life will know that we had lived. Sort of advocating for maybe giving up a little bit. Now is not the time to actually take action, but just to kind of let what's happening happen to us and see the results. There is another refugee who identifies only as Omega.
I've seen Dollhouse. This isn't going to go well.
I played Xenogears. This is also not going to go well.
What's wrong with Omega? It seems fine. We've been in a dream, and now we've been forced to wake up. This is our new reality. This
is Omega a refugee or a crew member?
Refugee.
Fuji.
Let's start again. We've been in a dream, and now we've been forced to wake up. This is our new reality. This is the real. Why do we need to try and make another Earth? We have all we could ever need inside the hold. Let us gather the resources that we need to sustain this new reality for us, trim the fat, and live forever in a world of our making.
He's not wrong.
No.
I don't know. Living VR
just
forever
make your
seems a
own
little
body.
bit.
Seems excessive.
What's the difference?
How could you ever expand new consciousness? Well,
I like that you're all thinking about this.
Oh, that look you took.
well, I was like, as I was saying it, 2 plus 3, I was like,
Yeah, no, I know. I saw it.
Yeah.
You got mad side eye. Sorry.
I know.
I saw your truth for a second.
No,
Whoa.
it's
So
private.
both Omega and Mnemosyne both have sort of very neutral forms, as you see. Like they've chosen in terms of their virtual representation, actually sort of like shorn heads. They both look very similar to each other, oddly enough. Sort of like both, sort of some unnamed sort of like European ancestry, sort of bone look to them, perhaps. But other than that, it's, maybe one leans more towards a masculine, one towards more of a feminine, but they are just very, very neutral in all other forms. Kind of similar look.
Why is Europe got to be neutral?
I mean,
It's not
You
really.
never
in
know.
terms of a gender level, perhaps a little more neutral in the way that they're like the dressed and presenting.
You never know what's going on in a heart full of neutrality.
Another head pops up that you recognize, one of the 1,000 or 10,000 crew, and they have more of a sort of French cast about them, perhaps in terms of particular ancestry. Their name is Remy Bouget.
Bouget.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are all that is left of humanity, and we need to take that responsibility seriously. This ship is our lifeboat. If allowed too many on board, we're all going to drown. No one likes to think of this situation, but we all need to consider anything that will save humanity. We need to delete lives to save what lives we can. We need to operate now, as we did before. The mission comes first.
You have my vote, friend.
And at each of these, there is a smattering of applause, for sure. I would say, like, once you've gotten to this guy, there is like some level of applause that is like kind of scattered about as you're moving through. And then lastly, you recognize one more crew member. Thala Hill. Very feminine, like long blonde hair, sort of dressed in like crew scrubs, like the jumpsuit. Despite the fact that jumpsuits really aren't needed in the virtual, but it kind of has like a level of pride, perhaps maybe their image. But it looks like that they've been working, right? It's kind of the look that they're putting off.
You're the working class. Oh.
All human life is important. End of sentence. Each voice has something to say and should not be wasted. We as a species have bested the worst that the universe has thrown at us. We have prevailed before, and we will prevail again. Humanity's nearly limitless imagination, ingenuity, and capacity to innovate will allow us to persevere. We can't allow our fear in this crisis to force us to change our core beliefs. Every life is important. Let us join together and find a way for all of us to survive this. And you feel like, maybe I'm not reading as well as I would like to, perhaps. I'm not a politician. But you feel like at least both of those last two struck chords in sort of equal ways with the crowd. People were agreeing to the first ones for sure and feeling that sense of loss and trauma, feeling a sense of, every person for themselves, of... What was the other one? This question about, what is humanity's path in terms of our reality? Is this, could we just live in here, right, instead of facing the real world anymore? But it seems like there's a larger portion, at least, of the crowd that's there, sort of feeling the sort of options of, hey, screw it, we need to sacrifice in order to move forward, but also in equal parts, those that are supporting this sort of idealist perspective of what if we can find a way to all survive? We are the last of humanity. Should we sacrifice anybody for that goal? And it seems a bit divided at the moment, even though all four of you are not divided, it seems like.
Nature always finds a way.
If we could get a satellite that had some data storage there before us.
You may have some conversations when you get to the real world, see how it goes. Yeah. You had a question?
What's the time on the clock?
At this point, about an hour has lapsed since, when you first started talking to Pollux about it. You're almost at the Spire.
So you have 5 hours.
It was like 6 days to get out to you.
Oh, 6 days.
Yeah,
sorry, I wrote down 6 hours.
No days, for sure.
Okay, 6 days away.
Cool.
So,
I like days better.
Coronal mass ejections typically, on average, can move at a few hundred to a couple thousand miles per second. And so, but spanning something on the order of, let me math real fast, 800 million miles still takes some time. But it's surprisingly, this one's faster than usual, shocking. But it is still gonna take, estimated a little over 6 days to get to you.
Why is our gun firing bullets at us?
Right.
Plasma bullets.
I have to ask,
Plasma cannonballs.
if we're in the hold, why does it take time to get to the Spire?
Because there's processing power required to transmit. You can go.
I mean, I
some of those
knew this
locations.
answer. I knew this answer, but I wanted to ask.
No, I appreciate it. It helps me fill out some things.
Okay.
So we talked about before, there's some of the transfer stations that you can kind of move between, but there's still it's not just it takes a lot for you to de-res and materialize in another location, right? So it kind of limits some of the transmission, right? Elements. So it was faster for you to move in this route to get there.
I feel like it would also just help people in general stay saner if they're not
Maybe some people.
popping in and out of existence.
Sure.
Yeah. I'm not saying everybody, but
And it may be
the majority, if it takes them time to reach a destination.
No, that's fair.
And that might have been
How very human of them.
Yeah, exactly. That might have been a decision made by the people who designed who designed it. That we're doing this for your safety. It's a lot of things are done that maybe are unnecessary, but because they're safe.
Yeah, for the same reason that y'all can't fly yet, even though there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to.
Right.
There's a level of normalcy, at least for now.
OSHA doesn't exist anymore because the world blew up. So
No. That means we need it now more than ever.
All
that point was
digital OSHA. Dosha?
Dosha.
Dosha.
Yes! I'm going to write this.
Also, if you think about it
Write it
on
down.
just a web surfing programming level, it takes you can't instantaneously get from one spot to another. It does take a minute for things to load and like for you to navigate. So
Especially in the current emergency situation, your resources being
our
spent just
systems are overtaxed.
to carry along the drowning lifeboat analogy, all resources right now are bailing out the system.
Yeah, we need to vent some stowaways.
That's terrible.
We just should put them like in a
that's the slogan of one of the
the one before the last
rhyming.
one.
Yeah.
Can we like turn them
Vent
into
the
like hard
stowaways.
copies and store them somewhere?
Have a conversation when you get out into the real world. You got some.
Like, can we just like put them in little like floppy disks and like on a shelf?
instead of stowaways, can we call them Fujis?
Fuji's.
Okay, well let's floppy disk these
I-
Fuji's and
I-
slap them on a shelf.
I find floppy to be derogatory.
Floppy or Fuji?
Floppy.
What's wrong
Floppy.
with floppy disks?
Yo,
I'd say
you want to see
floppy
my
disks.
2-inch floppy?
Hey.
Look it up,
Floppy
kids.
in here.
In another context, maybe.
Yeah. Anyway, so you make it to the spire, and you take an elevator up to the top of the spire. As is, it's kind of nice.
How inspiring.
Is there a princess up there?
You're so dead to me.
I mean, I'm here.
Will I give her a name?
And a gorilla throwing
My name's
barrels.
Penelope.
Okay, but can I have a wish then?
Yeah, what do you want?
Great. Let's.
Penelope just grants wishes.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm trying to relive the never-ending story. Where's my dragon? Where's my luck dragon?
Betray you.
Oh, Penelope just literally like pulls out this program and is like, here you go.
Never-ending story.
It's-
You're just like jamming. Thank you, our closet giggles bill.
Yeah.
It's definitely a program that she wrote when she was in her like early 20s,
No.
but like luck dragon flying, and you're like, wait, you really grant wishes? And she's like,
Okay.
just
At one point, I would like to say that Kaster kind of just comes up to whatever version of a window, the elevator, and just yell, "Star Child!"
Right?
Oh, it's such a hippie.
Also-
hippies.
That dragon, that luck dragon, that's in the hovel now. It's my new pet.
There's a room, just the luck dragon is. Alcor is just rolling around.
Yeah, it picks up my messes.
Do we have
Oh,
the
it's
bandwidth
a
for
Roomba?
Falcor?
What's that?
I said, do we have the processing for Falcor?
yeah, it's a super
I was
like
just
small
joking.
program.
Yeah, and it goes into the personal stack, so you're
Yeah.
fine. Anyway, so we make it to the top of the spire. Thanks for these side notes. I'm loving it. And the way this works, yeah. So the way this works is like there's a weird sense of like you now have this feeling that you're in this shared space with the real world, but you're in the digital side of it, sort of like the digital mirror world, right? The digital upside down. But there is like a sense where this is, since it is a transition space, there's like only so much that is actually brought into focus for you, like beyond a point that is sort of like leading into the real world. But you're each brought to sort of a private chamber up here. For you, you're kind of just like told to like hang out. We got a thing. We'll download you too. Like they don't know how to treat you because you're not a human consciousness, but they know that you need to be at this location to kind of facilitate the transfer.
Beep, boop, beep.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put you in like
They're-
one of those mechanical gorillas with symbols.
What
Yes.
shape are you taking right now? Like, what is your form currently, by the way?
Can I have an Energizer bunny?
Y'all are getting your meat suits, but Comms 3 is special.
I don't know. I've been going back and forth about this one.
Whatever it is, it's about to be in a mechanical robot, or a mechanical spider robot.
Well,
so.
I would say that my sort of default for a while is the child with nondescript features with the red balloon.
Oh. I was hoping for Fry Guy.
Dr. Who
What?
Gas Mask Kid.
Okay. Sorry, Steven's
Are you my
Universe
mummy?
reference.
Are you my mummy?
Was that his name, Fry Guy?
For
In
what?
Steven's Universe?
I haven't got that far.
Oh, the fucking Frybo? Is that what you're talking
Frybo!
about?
Frybo!
No, fuck that.
Can you be Frybo?
No. Hard pass.
Hard
So
pass
give
on
it a
Frybo.
balloon. That's cute. I like that. Okay, I like it. So each of you.
Hard
Hey,
pass on
Google.
Frybo, but like faceless kid with the balloon?
Not faceless. More like Odo.
Generic.
Generic. It's a generic
Creepy.
kid.
Can you imagine Odo's face on a
Well, now you're looking at it.
Oh.
Keep looking. Look deep.
With Dirty Harry's gun.
Yeah.
And you look into the robot void. The void looks back.
Not
Right?
kidding. I like with.
No, I remember.
Oh, okay. I
I like to think that the balloon
cowboy
is
suit.
tied to it, like the way you tie a weight to a balloon. It's tied to the gun.
Dude, Evie, what the fuck, Frybo?
Mutant Friday.
Yeah.
There's a gif of it. That's amazing.
Can you open that up and just show the camera? I don't know if it'll show up at all, but or just the entire page. It's terrifying.
Yeah.
Hi, viewers. If you
Yeah.
have not watched Steven Universe, you should watch Steven Universe.
I mean,
First of all,
I
it's
like
amazing.
it, but
Oh, it's so good.
no.
Right, yeah. Right, thank you. That's why I said hard
No.
pass.
The worst part is, it like in the episode where it animates and is attacking people, it just is like shoving fries in people's face and like choking them out with like piles of fries from nowhere. Like
It was great.
Very
That's a good one.
unconsensual fry eating.
very unconsensual fry eating.
Carbs.
I don't think I want to be a
So this is
rapey cartoon. So
this is
no.
I'm glad you're
episode
standards.
5 of season 1 of Steven Universe.
Oh, I love that
It's
show
really
so
you
much.
You going hard. Anyway, the bits. So, oh gosh, no, we're fine. So each of you are basically like in a room with this. Like this is understood how this is the best way for you to potentially remerge sort of with a meat suit. Is you take a moment and see yourself in basically the tube that you were stored in. And you get into a virtual tube that is basically right. I mean, it's all virtual, but like a tube that is right next to it, right? And you remember from your training that you are basically going to like through the downloading process. You are going to go to sleep, count backwards from 10, and then you're going to wake up in the body, right? Mark, for you. It's going to be sort of a similar process. You're not necessarily getting into a tube, but it's kind of just like things go blank. You're used to sort of a downloading page for you, that kind of idea. Like,
I'm getting in a
transitioning.
tube.
You can get in a tube. It's all up for you. But it's like the process is going to be a similar way, but you're going to be waking up into a robot body.
Cool.
So each of you get into your tube. Tubular. And you kind of like, you feel as sort of like countdown happens, you see your vision narrow to sort of like a tunnel vision points. And you are going through whatever personal process you've developed in the time of being sleeved and re-sleeved and through your training to kind of like handle this sense of like, I'm not dying. This is not me dying. This is just me transitioning locations. Like, it's fine. And it goes to darkness for an interminable amount of time. Some of you feel like you've had this before. Some of you feel like it's a blink. And some of you feel like it is eternity. And it is one of those things that is an ineffable sort of process of the sleeving tech that no one has ever narrowed down in terms of like how human brains process this translation. Like some, like I say, is instantaneous, and some feel like, this strange near-death experience kind of conversation, right? Like it is, I spent an entire lifetime in the darkness. And I'll leave it up to you to kind of think about how that process is. But either way, no matter what, it is jarring every single time that you wake up. And you find yourself in a tube. And you find yourself for the first time feeling gravity. You have had the digital analog of gravity for a long period of time before. Like, in that, kind of like how I put it this way. If you're hearing like a certain noise for a period of time, your brain can tune it out. If you're holding something in your hand for a while, your brain zeroes out via the scale, right? Like your normal like psychological processes has a way of sort of like normalizing your experiences. Yeah. You've become used to gravity in a digital sense, and now you suddenly feel your meat suit for the first time in years. And
Ever.
Well, for you, it's mechanical, so you have some level of familiarity.
I still have a different. Yeah.
You have some level of familiarity with this because
I may have done this before.
Yeah, maybe like you've certainly embodied particular technomorphs before, right? And to do like minor tasks, minor maintenance that you've done before. This is a similar maintenance bot that you've had interactions with.
Right.
But the new experience for you is that this is no longer like an appendage that you are controlling, but like this feels like this is your core unit, and it is limiting in an unknown way for you. You can still have access and connect to the others, but they're like phantom limbs right now. Like this is you, and it's a weird sense of like self in a single location.
Yeah, I grok that. That's good.
Cool. But all of you are disconcerted. Like, I mean, there is, put it this way, in the tube, a location for you to like be vomiting up various fluids and things that have been used to kind of like help keep yourself kind of stored. And we are going to be taking a break here in just a moment. What I'm going to leave you, though, is sort of an image, is that all of you, you know, not quite as jarring, by the way, as the Matrix, like, you know, pulling out of like yeah. Oh God. I mean, like, it is, you are well taken care of, right? There is, in fact, a robot will look similar, very similar to Comms 3, kind of like a large spidery kind of thing. It is not like as angular. It's not like designed to be like a really creepy imposing, but it is like multi-appendage, more like maybe cephalopod octopi that is like pulling off tubes and moving things and like
Can it be
readjusting.
the guy from Spirited Away that like makes the bat?
Yes.
Sorry.
Kamaji.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry. You know what I'm talking about?
Not yet. No, I know the guy. No, not yet. But like, I like that character may exist somewhere, and I'll let you come up with a space for that. But these are like very mechanical. And this is the physical world, like, right? This is now like very mechanical. They're like designed to like specifically have appendages to pull tubes off and out. And as all of you sort of get up and are all very nearby each other on a similar level of the spire, it's not a very large structure at the point you are. All of you sort of like make it to the railing. You're sort of like on the outside of this level. Where it is very open in the center. And as you make it to the railing and are taking deep breaths and acclimating to the feel of a meat suit again and gravity, you look over the railing and you see just like repeated glowing tubes spiraling downwards along the edge, like as you see the entirety of the physical representation of humanity in that tunnel. And that is where we're going to take a break for 10 to 15 minutes. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back in just a little bit after we take care of our own biological needs. See you soon. Bye.